The Gollywhopper Games by Jody Feldman, and this is Chapter 7. Please, the announcer boomed for the fourth time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please. The shrieks and whoops began to fade. I'm Randy White, your voice of the Gollywhopper Games, the ultimate competition celebrating Golly's 50 years in the fun-making business. So let's make some fun. The crowd cheered again. I know, you're excited to get this party started, but first, important instructions. Your rule sheet tells you this portion of the Gollywhopper Games consists of multiple choice questions. As I read the questions, they will appear on the scoreboard. Look up there now. If we were to ask, for example, which company is sponsoring this great event? A, terrific, B, gosh, C, super, or D, golly, your number one toy and game company in the entire world, you would all pick answer D. But how will you show your answer? Notice, the stadium is divided into 4 separate sections, each designated A, B, C, or D. When we've given the signal, you may get out of your seats, go into the concession area, and follow the arrows around the stadium clockwise. That's to your right, until you get to the section that matches your answer. We guarantee you will have enough time to find a place in your chosen section for everyone's safety, and this is vitally important. Do not run, do not push, do not climb over the nets, do not go the wrong way, and always remain with your adult. Violators will be eliminated on the spot. Also, adults, this is a competition for your 11 to 15-year-olds. You must not help the contestants in any way. Yeah, said Gil. How many adults won't help? At least one, said his dad. Good. Gil was suddenly glad Bianca and Kurt were along for his ride. They could be witnesses in case someone accused him of cheating. When the concession area is nearly clear, Randy continued, we will start a 5-minute countdown before the final buzzer. Then we will announce the correct answer. If you are in the right section, remain there. If you've chosen incorrectly, please find the nearest stadium exit. On your way out, you will receive a $10 gift certificate toward the purchase of any Golly product, plus a free copy of Scorch's new CD. Good luck, contestants, and now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let the Gollywhopper Games begin. Question number 1. How many letters plus punctuation marks are in Golly Toy and Game Company's first advertising slogan? A, 27, B, 28, C, 29, D, 30. Okay, go! Most kids lunged for the aisles. Where are we going? Asked Bianca. I can't exactly go anywhere until I figure it out, Gil said. It wasn't the slogan that slowed him down. Golly still printed it on every package. Gil counted the letters on his fingers once, then twice, 25 both times. Now for the punctuation. The slogan always came with a balloon-style exclamation point. 26. Still not enough letters and marks to match any of the answers. Gil took his new Golly pen from his pocket. On the instruction sheet, he scribbled, if it's fun, it's by golly, by golly. 1 comma? Yeah, Gil was sure. 27. Okay. Section A. Wait. The apostrophes. I say section C. Gil handed the paper to Bianca. Double-check my numbers. She counted and then stood. Let's go. The 4 of them wormed their way up the aisle. Gil had to believe it'd be easier to move down 5 seats and jump the net than go 3/4 of the way around the stadium. But when they stepped inside the concession area, it wasn't the mess he expected. It was more like an orderly game of musical chairs. They fell into step, passed the rest of Section D, all of A and B, and then entered the sunlit areas of Section C with 2 minutes to go. Clambering over the feet and knees of a dozen people who had already hogged the spaces hugging the aisles, Gil moved down to the netting separating C from D. The backs of his legs were a millisecond from hitting the bench when Bianca grabbed him by the shoulder and whirled him around to face her. Are you sure about the answer? Absolutely, positively, down to your very soul sure? If we get the very first question wrong, I think I'd crumple up and die. Yuck, said Gil. No, really. Really, Bianca, if I thought I was wrong, I'd be racing like a wild man. Instead, I'm going to sit on this nice, hot bench. Then why are more people over there? Bianca pointed toward an overflowing section B. Were they right? Had Gil imagined the comma? Was there really an exclamation point? Buzz! Gil jumped. Too late to move now. If, Randy's voice boomed, you'll cast your attention to the scoreboards, the wrong answers will disappear one by one until only the correct answer remains. Hit it! The crowd rose. Wild cheers thunder. All 4 answers on the scoreboard flashed off and on, flickering faster and faster. The board went black, then lit back up with answer A. Gone. Groans rose from that section. The flashing began again. Answer D. Gone. It was down to B and... Ah! Some kid had scrambled under the flexible fencing, banging into Gil's ankles, toppling Gil onto his dad. Security! Screamed Gil. But his voice tumbled into the cheers from his section because only answer C remained. The nearest guard, 2 rows below, was staring forward. The one 3 rows above was tending to some man who had a cut on his head. Gil looked for another, but his dad grabbed him from behind and lifted him up and down. Bianca gave him a hug. Kurt whacked him on the back. The cheater and his adult were leaping, slapping high fives, blending in, guiltless. The kid turned to Gil for a high five. Gil blinked and looked again, shuddered. The kid did a double take. He pointed at Gil. Hey, he laughed. If it isn't the son of a crook. It was Rocky Titus. And you're talking because you're Honest Abe? Rocky puffed his chest. Prove I'm not. Gil couldn't. Just go away. We already did. Left this boring town for the big city, Rocky grinned. You should see our new house. Huge pool, floor-to-ceiling TVs, video games like you wouldn't believe. He elbowed Gil. Still living in that ugly house? It's better than your face. Gil turned his back to Rocky and watched his own dad talk to Mr. Titus. Gil had always thought Rocky's parents were nice people, so it never made sense that their son was the biggest creep in the Midwest. Now that Mr. Titus had cheated right alongside Rocky, Gil was beginning to understand. So, Rocky whispered into Gil's ear, maybe you're worth following. Did your old man steal the answers before they arrested him? Gil stared at the scoreboard, felt his toes clench and release the soles of his flip-flops, tried to forget the jerk was here. Impossible. So he stared some more, jittered his knees, and waited to start playing again. Finally, Randy's voice reverberated over the speakers. Question number 2. Golly's very first board game, like many Golly games since, depended on a roll of the dice to keep the game moving. Using that first game as a clue, when were the dice widely believed to have been invented? At the same time as A. the presence of the Shang dynasty before 1000 BC, B. the expansion of the Roman Empire around 257 BC, C. the age of the knights during the Middle Ages around 1010 AD, or D. the cultural movement of the Renaissance around 1410 AD. What was Gil supposed to be, a walking encyclopedia? He looked at his dad and shrugged. His dad shrugged back. So did Kurt. I wish I knew, Bianca said. I really want to help. Gil smiled at her, but he doubted it. Where to, Gil? Said his dad. You know this one, don't you? His dad's expression didn't change. All those facts Gil had studied, all that information about business structures, stock options, insurance providers, that all meant nothing if he couldn't figure out when dice were invented. He looked at the question again. Using Golly's first game as a clue, Gil said, reasoning out loud. Okay. Their first game was The Incredible Treasures of King Tut and... King Tut, said Bianca. I know him. What do you want to know? You're kidding, right? Said Gil. I'm crazy about him, Double G. He was the kid king who ruled for 9 years and had more gold and jewels than... Well, he just had tons. They buried him with it. Cool and gruesome. Ask me anything. Do you know when he died? Said Gil. Not exactly. Gil's stomach sank. But I know he was born in like 1340 BC because 1340 is my locker number at school. That's how I remember history. You gotta love history. So he must have died. Gil grabbed Bianca's hand and pulled her into the aisle. You can follow me anywhere, he said. She beamed. I did good? You did great. Inside the concession area, Gil didn't need to look back to feel Rocky lurking behind. He wanted to turn around and slug the guy, but Gil just walked harder and faster and tried to feel lucky that he'd still be in the games after answers B, C, and D disappeared. And when the scoreboard finally started flashing, C was gone, D gone, then B? The right answer was B? No! The section next to them cheered. Gil sank to his knees and pounded the bench in front of him. Rocky screamed something obscene. Bianca sobbed on Kurt's shoulder. I know history, I really do. Gil's dad put a hand on his back. I would have been wrong too, but no, you're right. There. Hold on. Randy's voice pierced through Gil's gut. No one leave. The people around Gil stopped as if caught in a freeze frame. We've had a malfunction. The scoreboard has the wrong answer. The wrong answer. The scoreboard went black. Gil held his breath and closed his eyes until he heard the crazy cheers from the contestants surrounding him. Sorry for the mix-up, folks, Randy said. The correct answer is now on the board. Those of you in Section A, please remain where you are. To those of you in other sections, we apologize for the mix-up and ask you to exit quickly. You'll receive an autographed copy of Scorch's CD and a $20 Golly gift certificate. Gil's breath came in gulps. He put his head in his hands and wished he could go home, sleep for a while, and come back tonight. But he was here, and most kids were gone. Hey, Gil, Bianca said a few moments later. He came back into daylight, blinked to adjust his eyes. Bianca was pointing about 10 rows below them. Isn't that the guy from your notebook? I don't recognize his adult. I can't even remember why you had a picture of him with his dad, but I'd know those red cheeks anywhere. Gil stood on the bench to get a better look. Yeah, it's Thorne, the rich kid. He bought about 5,000 Golly toys and games before he found an instant winner ticket. And that guy with him looks more like a bodyguard than his... Huh? A wad of paper bounced off the top of Gil's head and hit Bianca's shoulder. And there's the cutout. They both turned. Rocky was grinning at them from 3 rows up. Gil grabbed the wad and opened it. How appropriate. He threw the rules away. Bianca turned and stepped up on the bench behind them. You jerk! You could have hit someone in the eye. Rocky started laughing like it was the most hysterical thing he'd ever heard. Bianca took another step up. Kurt grabbed her arm, and Gil had had enough of the drama. He just wanted to keep playing. Looked around, tried to estimate the number of other kids he needed to beat. How many's still here, Dad? 4,000? Fewer, said his dad. If you... Congratulations, Randy announced. By our calculations, there are between 2,500 and 3,000 contestants remaining. That answered that. So, congratulate yourself for making it into the top 10 to 15%. Randy paused for the crowd's rumble and then continued. You have 2 more questions to answer today. For the final question, we'll do something different, but for the next one, we'll stick to the same multiple choice format. And here it is. When Thaddeus G. Gollywhop founded Golly Toy and Game Company, he was the same age as Charles Lindbergh when Lindy made the first solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean. Give us that age. A, 25, B, 27, C, 29, or D, 31. Without wasting a second, Gil stood to leave for the concession area. He looked back. His dad's eyes wouldn't meet his. Gil smiled at him anyway. Don't worry, he said. Don't worry. With his dad, Bianca, Kurt, Rocky, and Mr. Titus in a parade behind him, Gil made a giant circle around the concession area until he led them back to Section A. You do know where we are, don't you? Asked Kurt. Isn't this where we just came from? Said Bianca. Gil's dad smiled. Sorry, said Gil. Needed to move. His plan to shake Rocky hadn't worked. Not that he'd expected it to. Maybe soon. Maybe. Dozens of workers were racing onto the field, placing small desks onto the turf in haphazard rows. Maybe for the next question, Rocky couldn't follow him. Gil watched. He waited, and when the scoreboard started flashing, he held his breath, hoping he hadn't made a mistake, hoping he could... A! Gil jumped. He screamed. He hugged his dad, wanted to call his mom and tell her he'd beat Golly at least a little. It wouldn't pay to gloat. Not now, though. Not yet. Not unless he made it through the final elimination round of the day.